When it comes to video games and media in general, I find it quite hard to become emotional towards something. But when it comes to Messmer's story, he genuinely just takes it, flips it on its back like Mike Tyson, and sends it to the 7th level of hell. I mean it when I say I genuinely nearly shed a tear when I was reading Messmer's story. So in today's video, I want to go fully all over Messmer the Impaler and explain to you the tragic backstory and also some details you might have missed upon first reading his story. So please sit back, relax, grab some succulent, tasty and sensational prawns if you want, and enjoy as we delve into Messmer the Impaler. From everything given to us, Messmer the Impaler is the firstborn child of Marika. If we look at the timeline, there's really no more space for any other child that isn't Messmer to be the firstborn child of Marika. There's a detail though that he shares with some certain twins of Marika. Messmer the Impaler was cursed at birth, or at least it seems to be so. It's never directly stated, but I feel it's heavily implied that the base serpent sealed by grace within Messmer's eyes are in fact the result of an outer god. Kind of like how in the same sense, Melania's scarlet rot is a byproduct of an outer god of scarlet rot. Now what this outer god actually is and who they are is very much up to the imagination. But personally, I'm dead convinced that Messmer has been cursed by an outer god. Item descriptions tell us that this base serpent is in fact malicious, which leads me on to my reasoning for believing that the base serpent and these two winged snakes aren't the same entities. My theory is perhaps the base serpent comes along and it grows with Messmer, but also growing alongside Messmer, a byproduct like the scarlet rot, is, well, these two winged snakes. They are said to be Messmer's ever constant. They are the one thing that stayed constant in his life. Even in his broken and hideous form where he destroys the grace given by his mother, they still stay by his side. Now I could be completely off base, but that doesn't sound very malicious to me. And you know, I'm pretty chuffed myself that they've made these two little snake buddies into a nice sort of duo. I was a bit worried they were going to make them into evil bastards, and that would have upset me because I love snakes. Now Messmer has Messmer's flame, but he says in item descriptions that he wished it to be gone. Now if we then look at the fact that the base serpent was sealed behind his eyes, it sort of leans credence to the fact that maybe the base serpent and Messmer's flame were linked. Explaining why he hates his flame, because as we will talk about, his flame, his snake hidden behind his eye, is the exact reason why he was secreted to the Shadow Realm. All throughout Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, characters talk about the evil tyranny of Messmer the Impaler, and we're built up this image of this terrible and hideous and heinous man that has inflicted pain upon thousands of people. But when we do end up beating him, I can only feel pity, for Messmer the Impaler is a victim in all of this. Messmer the Impaler was manipulated and forced into this role of being this symbol of fear. He was instructed to do so by his very own mother, Marika the Eternal. And when you look at it like this and realise that Messmer is being strung along by his mother, trying to impress her, it makes you realise, oh wait, now it all makes sense why he has so many followers that are devout to him. We are talking about Marika and her relation to Messmer. I did just want to say, you know the seal on Messmer's eye that it talks about? The seal that is sealing the abyssal serpent? Well, that rune eye is in fact the same sort of rune that we see in Marika's runes all throughout Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. Their descriptions saying they are grace given by Marika herself, and this eye was given by Marika herself as well. This is just a really cool detail I thought I should mention. If you look, there are so many high up members of the Golden Order and the Lands Between that run off to join Messmer, like Radhn. And it makes you think, well, what's this guy got that the Golden Order doesn't? What's so special about Messmer? And the answer to that is, he is a good guy. People follow him because people realise he's a good person. But the problem here comes, he is being strung along by his mother. He is doing his mother's evil wishes. So these people following the quote unquote good guy doing good deeds then see what he's doing as good deeds. It's this unintentional butterfly effect that happens from Marika's own heinous actions. And contrary to what it might look like, these heinous acts aren't lost on Messmer. If you look all throughout the Land of Shadows, Marika's statues have all had their heads decapitated. They are just gone. Now, I actually believe this might be Messmer. This is also due to the fact that Messmer talks in his item descriptions about his hatred towards Marika. After all, his eternal suffering that he does describe is caused by Marika. At one point or another, he probably realised, hey, wait a minute, I'm not here for a crusade, I'm here because my mother does not want me in her world. Another thing I find really interesting about the word crusade is in the 11th to the 13th century, there was a war in our world called the Crusades. These were the fights for the Holy Land, which was Jerusalem. I find it really interesting as well that these holy elements are located inside of the Land of Shadows. Maybe Marika, although she wanted to secrete Messmer away, she had an ulterior motive, to claim the holy lands of the Erdtree. While on the topic of those that fled the lands between to the Shadow Realm for Messmer, I want to talk about the Volcano Manor. Now, the Volcano Manor has many insignias of snakes. It was, after all, the culture of the Volcano Manor that Rykard reinvented and rediscovered. And after everything we know from the DLC, I really don't think it's too far-fetched to say that Messmer might have been in charge of the Volcano Manor, before of course being secreted away to the Land of Shadows. Something you might now be rightfully wondering is, what does the snake that devoured Rykard have to do with any of this? They are, after all, found in the Volcano Manor. What do they have to do with this? Well, I actually believe that snake might have been the vassal of the snake outer god. Now, we know that the outer gods all have their own little vassals. The Greater Will has the Elden Beast, the stars have the moons, and the Scarlet Rot Outer God has, well, the Scarlet Scorpion. It's only fitting for this Snake Outer God to have its own little vassal like all its counterparts. I think if it didn't have one, that would be really strange and very much less likely than the fact that this snake is actually the vassal. Personally, I'm convinced on it, but I'm really curious to see what you all have to say about it. There's also something that I find really interesting about all those that left for the Land of Shadows for Messmer. The Fire Knight item descriptions tell us that the Fire Knights were actually shunned and disowned from their families due to the fact that they joined Messmer. All the Fire Knights were actually from noble bloodlines. What I find really interesting about this is the fact that Marika instructed Messmer to go on this crusade, and yet the noble families were like, oh fuck no, this is bad, this is some bad shit. And it makes me think, maybe Marika wasn't actually consulting the other noble families, or they weren't in the know, which is, by the way, very much something Marika would do. A question that is finally answered from all of this is why Rykard is known as the Lord of Blasphemy. Now, for a long time we all thought, oh yes, it's because he got eaten by the serpent, and I definitely agree with that, but I think some clarity is added onto that. If we look at how Messmer is described and how he's treated inside the land between those that went and followed him were shunned and banished from their families, doesn't it make you think, well, if he's represented by snakes, snakes would then be represented as evil, as wrongdoers? And I think that is exactly what happened with the Volcano Manor, and in particular this snake that ate Rykard. Maybe this was seen as blasphemy, because it was a blast to the past into some more blasphemy. I don't know, maybe I'm reaching on that one, but this is what I truly believe. Also, I can't be the only one to think this, but don't the snakes inside of the Volcano Manor, the alive ones, look very similar to that of Messmer's snakes inside the DLC? We know the serpents at the Volcano Manor are man-serpents created by Rykard, but maybe Rykard used some element from Messmer's snakes to create these man-serpents. Hell, maybe again I'm reaching, but I really like this idea. FromSoftware is absolutely amazing at using environmental storytelling, and I think the Shadowkeep is a great example of that. If you look at where the Shadowkeep is located on the map, you'll notice that it blocks off a certain area called the Hinterlands. Now this might seem unimportant at first, but if you've explored the Hinterlands, you'll know that we actually find out this is the origin place for Marika. This is Marika's birthplace. Along with this, we find out that the shaman are in fact the Newman. What's so important about this is the fact the Shadowkeep guards and protects anyone from entering the Hinterlands. Only way you can enter it is by doing an emote in front of a decapitated Marika statue, the emote being called Oh Mother. What I find really interesting about this is the fact that because the Shadowkeep is protecting this land, and the fact that Messmer is the leader of the Shadowkeep, and technically his family is from here, it sort of adds this sympathetic layer. He's protecting his ancestors' home from any who might want to conquer it. It's really kind of sad, but also kind of nice to see that he does value his family's past, even if he does, as we see, have this mixed hate-love relationship with his mother. Something I do think is going to be probably a bit overlooked is the fact that Messmer does show kindness to his cannon fodder. He does show kindness to his foot soldiers. Messmer's army is all given Messmer's flame. He gives them power, and although the flame does not take purchase within them, they do find ways to use this, and this does enhance their power, making them less likely to die. In my opinion, this shows the sympathy Messmer has for his foot soldiers. Or again, for the third time I've said in this video, maybe I'm just overthinking things. Messmer, in my opinion, is one of the most tragic characters within Elden Ring as a whole. He was secreted away by his own mother, made into an object of fear and forced to endure an eternity of suffering, the only companionship available to him being the two snakes which would go on to stay with him to the bitter end. I love Messmer's character. Not only was it an absolutely incredible boss fight, but an absolutely incredible story, and all I can say is bravo FromSoftware. Bra fucking vo. If you did enjoy this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. And it also lets me know that you're enjoying this style of content and do want to see more. This is the first lore video we've done on the channel for Shadow of the Erdtree, so I really hope you did enjoy this one. I'm not going to hold you any longer, so yeah, I really do hope you have a great rest of your day, and yeah, may you find your worth in the waking world. Goodbye everyone.